Dear Cameron, Mother Teresa once said, "Yesterday is gone, tomorrow has not yet come, we have only today. Let us begin." Dear Cameron and all fellow imposters, today let's talk about fear. In fact, today we're going to be talking about one of my greatest fears, something that I fear more than death. Now, I'm convinced that I've had this fear for most of my life, but I wasn't even consciously aware of it until just a couple of years ago. And it's all because of this man.
We've all bought and enjoyed books called Optical Illusions, right? Well, we all love optical illusions, but that's not what they should call the book. They should call them brain failures, okay? Because that's what it is.
That, dear Cameron, was the booming voice of American astrophysicist and director of the Hayden Planetarium, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Then, when you go to Roswell and there's like crashed flying saucers, I'm thinking, if the alien came across the galaxy and couldn't land a damn spaceship, I don't want to meet the aliens.
As an astrophysicist, Neil is not afraid to ask the really big questions. When listening to him in interviews, it is easy to imagine that the deepest depths of philosophy are only puddles in Neil's day-to-day conversations. And I'd like to show you, dear Cameron, one interview in particular. Here he is asking one of the biggest questions to legendary interviewer Larry King.
Because I've been asked, if you could live forever, would you?
Yes.
Okay, we're done with the interview.
And every time I watch this interview, I laugh at Larry King's answer. Because he isn't kidding. He does not want to die. And he isn't afraid to admit it. And that kind of honesty is just so wonderful. Anyway, let's continue.
No, okay, sure, that's an attractive idea. But the way I look at it is the knowledge that I'm going to die that creates the focus that I bring to being alive. The urgency of accomplishment, the need to express love now, not later. If we live forever, why ever even get out of bed in the morning? Because you always have tomorrow. That's not the kind of life I want to lead.
Okay, so the first time I watched this video, I was totally 100% on board. I was taking mental notes, and had I known that I was going to have a podcast years later, I would have written a script immediately. But what I wasn't prepared for was what was coming next. By means of this man through some random video on YouTube, I was about to have my greatest fear, which I wasn't even conscious of yet, spelled out right in front of me.
Don't you fear not being around?
I fear living a life where I could have accomplished something and didn't. That's what I fear. I don't fear death.
Boom. My heart still drops when I hear this clip. He continues.
I loved it. You know what I want on my tombstone? My sister has this in her notes, because in case I can't tell anyone after I die. On my tombstone, a quote from Horace Mann, the great educator. Be ashamed to die until you have scored some victory for humanity. That's what I want on my tombstone.
Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity? There is a lot to unpack here, fellow imposters. But let's start with what is, for me at least, the most obvious. Neil deGrasse Tyson didn't say he used to fear living a life where he could have accomplished something and didn't. He said he fears, presently, actively living a life where he could have accomplished something and didn't. Neil deGrasse Tyson. But before this podcast turns into Imposter Syndrome Part 2, let's unpack one more thing. Because I actually don't think Neil deGrasse Tyson has imposter syndrome. I think what he's experiencing, what he's talking about, is something else. Let's go back to that quote. Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity. This quote from Horace Mann, I think you will agree, is pretty harsh. It's especially harsh when you think of those who come from circumstances where they are not given the opportunities or resources or abilities to win these great victories for humanity. Should these people really feel shame for their deaths? No, of course not. So what are they talking about? What does Neil deGrasse Tyson and Horace Mann mean when they say some victory for humanity? And you know what, Cameron? I don't know. Because if I did, this wouldn't be something that keeps me awake at night. But maybe a clue to the answer lies in another quote by Horace Mann when he said, "If any man asks for greatness, Let him forget greatness and ask for truth, and he will find both. Dear Cameron and all fellow imposters, good luck out there. Sincerely, Cullen.